Let's take a look at creating images. Please note that this tutorial was created on an iPad Pro using Animation Pro version 1. Your screens may look a little different. You can access the Animation Pro image creator via the Create Crop menu at the top of the screen. Press the button with the picture of the spanner on it and select Create an Image. Animation Pro will display all of your image projects. You can edit an existing image by tapping on it. Otherwise, press the plus button to create a new one. Give your project a name and then tap on it to open it. The image creator has 7 main buttons spread across its title bar at the top of the screen. The first will exit the image creator and return you to the last Animation Pro screen that you were using. The second opens the File Manager. Here you can select a different project. The third is the Remove menu. It can be used to remove the contents from the current layer or alternatively all content from your project. The fourth allows you to minimize or maximize the tool options. The fifth opens the Output menu. This menu gives you a bunch of options for saving or sharing your image. The sixth opens the Options menu. Here you can select a left-handed or right-handed display. You can also set a background color. Please note that this color will not be included in any of the images that you create. It simply makes it easier to see what you're doing, for example, when drawing in white. Finally, you can set the currently visible image as an onion skin. Lastly, the seventh button may be used to access the help system. There you'll find nearly 500 pages of help covering all aspects of Animation Pro. So let's get started. On the right-hand side of the screen below the title bar, you'll see all of the image creator tools. The active tool will be shown in white. In this case, the brush tool has been selected. As you tap on each of the different tools, the options will change on the left-hand side of the screen. Please be aware that some of the tools, such as the Lighten and Darken tools, don't have many options and will thus display a minimized version of the options panel. Other tools, like the Shape tools, have a minimized version of the options panel containing the most commonly used items and a maximized version containing everything. Whenever a minimized version is displayed, you can swipe down on it to open the maximized version, or press the button at the top of the screen as shown. The brush tool will behave differently based upon whether you're using your finger or an Apple Pencil. You can select your finger versus the Apple Pencil using the 2 buttons shown here. For the moment, let's see how it works with your finger. There are 9 basic brush styles to select from. These define whether the brush strokes will ease in or ease out, or fade in and fade out. For brushes that ease in or ease out, you can specify the ease in and the ease out lengths using the dials provided. You'll notice that as you make changes to your project, additional buttons appear at the top of the screen. You can press the green tick button to save your project. Alternatively, the yellow button sitting beside it can be used to discard all changes and roll your project all the way back to the last saved version. On the right-hand side, you'll see a similar rollback button with a little green number. Animation Pro keeps track of the last 20 changes made to any of the 5 layers in your image project. Repeatedly press this button to discard those changes. The width of the brush can be changed using the large blue dial at the top of the screen. Most dials within Animation Pro also contain a button. You can press the button to perform a fine adjustment. Now it wouldn't be much fun if you could only draw in black. To set the colour of your brush, tap on the colour at the top of the screen. Drag your finger over the colour swatch to select a colour. As you do this, the gradient shown above the colour swatch will change. You can drag your finger over the gradient to select a lighter version of the currently selected colour. If you'd like a little more control over your colour selection, press the little blue button below the colour swatch. This will display 3 dials for precise RGB colour selection. Press the little blue button again to return to the swatch. It's also possible to paint with either linear or radial gradients. Select Gradient at the top of the Colour Options panel and choose the first colour. Press the Colour 2 button and select the second colour. Right now we've created a linear gradient that changes from green to blue as you paint from one side of the screen to the other. You can set the direction and size of the colour transition by drawing a line on the gradient preview as shown. To paint using a radial gradient, select Radial at the top of the Colour Options panel. Press the Colour 1 button and select the first colour. Then press the Colour 2 button and select the second colour. The position and radius of the radial gradient can then be set by drawing a line on the gradient preview as shown. Colours can also have a level of opacity. At 0 opacity, the colour will be completely transparent. At 100% opacity, it will be completely opaque. Use the dial at the bottom of the Colour Options panel to choose any value in between for translucent colours. It's also possible to select an existing colour from the currently active layer in your image project. Press the button with the picture of the eyedropper on it, and then drag your finger across your image to choose a different colour. When you're done, press the eyedropper button again to exit colour selection mode. And when you're done selecting colours, press the brush tool button again to return to the brush options. If you happen to own an Apple Pencil, then you can choose it for drawing by pressing the pencil button as shown. This will alter the brush options. When using an Apple Pencil, you can choose to control the size and the colour of the brush based upon the force or the tilt applied to the pencil. Let's take a look at adjusting the size of the brush. By default, the pencil will simply use the minimum brush size set by the dial at the top of the screen, regardless of the force or the tilt applied to the pencil. When either force or tilt is selected for brush size control, however, the size of the brush will vary between the minimum brush size and the maximum brush size selected on the Brush Options panel. So let's select Force for brush control and adjust the maximum brush size. A brush stroke may now vary between the two sizes based upon the force applied to the pencil. Similarly, we can choose to use Force or Tilt for colour control. Let's select Tilt for colour control and then select the two colours that represent no tilt and full tilt. As the Apple Pencil is tilted, the colour will vary between the two selections. You can reverse the colour transition by pressing the button between the two colours on the Brush Options panel. The dial at the bottom of the panel can also be used to set the level of opacity. Please note that when neither force nor tilt are selected for colour control, colours will behave in exactly the same way as they do when using your finger. In other words, you may still choose to work with solid colours or linear and radial gradients. Fill tool can be used to fill voids, overlay or replace existing colours with a given colour or colour gradient. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, so let's take a look at how it works. We'll start by drawing a quick loop. Now let's tap on the button with the picture of the dribbling paint can to open the fill tool. In this example, I've already selected red as the fill colour. When I tap anywhere inside the loop, Animation Pro will fill it with red. Now the result looks pretty good, but if I zoom in on the image, we can see that some of the pixels look like they haven't been filled. Now that's because the edges of the black loop were anti-aliased. In other words, Animation Pro had added extra translucent pixels to smooth out the edges of the black line. These pixels weren't filled because we had asked Animation Pro to replace clear pixels with red pixels and had only given that operation 20% tolerance. Thus, if we undo the fill, increase the tolerance and try again, we'll see that more of the pixels are now red. but we'll also see that the fill now produces jagged looking edges. In this situation, we can produce a much better result by turning on the fill void option before applying the fill. Similarly, if we tap on the black loop to fill it with a high tolerance, we can end up with a jagged looking red line. In this case, we can achieve a much better result by selecting the Preserve Alpha option before applying the fill. Now, by default, Animation Pro will overlay existing colours with the fill colour. So if you select a translucent colour for your fill, you will effectively tint the existing colour. If, however, you wish to replace an existing colour, please select the Replace Colour option before applying the fill. Finally, the whole fill experience would be a little bit boring if you couldn't also fill with gradients. When filling with a gradient, you can drag your finger across the area that you wish to fill to set the start, the end, and the direction of the gradient. Tap on the Eraser button as shown to open the Eraser tool. You can set the size of the eraser by rotating the dial at the top of the screen. Drag your finger over your image to remove content from the currently active layer. Please note that the eraser will be red by default. That may be hard to see if you're removing red content. So Animation Pro allows the colour of the eraser to be changed. The Selection tool allows you to cut or copy content from the currently active layer to the Image Creator clipboard, or paste content from the Image Creator clipboard into the currently active layer. Press the button with the hand on it to open the Selection tool. You can modify the size of the Selection tool by rotating the dial at the top of the screen. Drag your finger over your image to select content from the currently active layer. Using the selection options, you can also choose to remove previously selected content by selecting the Subtract option. Using the selection options, it's also possible to invert your selection, select everything, or clear your selections. Let's select part of the image. Once that's done, you can choose to cut the selected content from the currently active layer by pressing the button with the picture of the scissors on it. The content cut from the layer will be placed into the Image Creator clipboard. Alternatively, you can leave your image intact and copy the content to the clipboard by pressing the second button on the Selection Options panel as shown. Please note that the clipboard is shared by all image projects, so it can be used to copy content from one project to another. Of course, you'll also need to know how to retrieve content from the clipboard. Press the Selection tool button if it's not already active, and then press the Paste button in the Selections option panel as shown. You'll notice that the selection options are replaced by Paste options. You can do a number of things to the content before it's actually added to the currently active layer. Using two fingers, you can scale the content. The three buttons at the top of the Paste options allow you to 1. Stretch the image horizontally, 2. Stretch the image vertically, or 3. Scale the image uniformly. The opacity dial in the middle of the Paste Options panel can be used to make the content transparent. Beneath that, you'll find two buttons to rotate the content 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right. Alternatively, you can rotate the content using the dial at the top of the screen or by using two fingers. You can also use the two flip buttons on the Paste Options panel to flip the content horizontally or vertically. Once you're done, press the green tick button to add the content to the currently active layer, or alternatively, press the red X button to abort the paste operation. In this case, we'll paste the content. The Lighten tool provides a quick means of adding highlights to your images. Tap on the button with the picture of the sun on it to open the Lighten tool. Use the dials at the top of the screen to set the size of the Lighten brush and the strength of the effect. Then use your finger or an Apple Pencil to add the highlights. Darken tool provides a quick means of adding shadows to your images. Tap on the button with the picture of the moon on it to open the Darken tool. Use the dials at the top of the screen to set the size of the darken brush and the strength of the effect, and then use your finger or an Apple Pencil to add the shadows. The Tint tool provides a quick and easy means of, and as the name suggests, tinting an image. Tap the button as shown to open the Tint tool. Use the dial at the top of the screen to set the size of the tinting brush. Select a colour and opacity. In this case, we're going to tint the image using a linear gradient with an opacity of 30%. And then use your finger or an Apple Pencil to tint your image. The last of the tools is the Shape tool. Press the button with the picture of the circle and square on it to open the Shape tool. This will display the Shape Options panel. You can add shapes to your currently active layer using the 4 buttons at the top of the Shape Options panel. This allows you to quickly add circles, squares, lines or curves. Let's add a square. Shapes may be moved around using your finger. The dial at the top of the screen may be used to adjust the width of the lines in your shape. The blue handles surrounding the shape may be used to adjust the shape in various ways. You can also make the ends and joins in your shape either square or rounded. The colour of your shape may be changed as shown. You may also choose to fill your shapes with that colour by selecting the Fill Shapes option on the Shapes Options panel. Finally, shapes may be rotated using 2 fingers or the dial and buttons provided on the Shape Options panel. And when you're done, press the green tick at the bottom of the Shape Options panel to add the shape into the currently active layer of your image. Now, during this tutorial, I've mentioned adding content to the currently active layer. In Animation Pro, image projects have 5 layers. You can view and manipulate the layers by pressing the button as shown. This will open the layer panel. Each layer in your project is represented by a thumbnail showing its content, where the thumbnail for the currently active layer has a blue border. You can turn layers on and off by tapping on the buttons with the picture of the eye on them. You can adjust the opacity of each layer by dragging the sliders. Layers can also be moved up and down in the layer hierarchy to bring content to the front or send it to the back. To do this, tap on the Edit button at the bottom of the layer panel and then drag your layers up and down using the 3 line handles. When you're done, press the Cancel button at the bottom of the layer panel. To remove the content completely from a layer, press the Edit button at the bottom of the layer panel, tap on the small red button next to the layer thumbnail, and then press Delete. Alternatively, you can open the Remove menu at the top of the screen and select Image from Current Layer. To remove the content from all of the layers, press the Reset All button at the bottom of the layer panel, or select everything from the Remove menu at the top of the screen. Please note, to get all of that content back, you will need to press the Undo button for each individual layer as shown. Finally, the content in multiple adjacent layers may be merged together by dragging your finger across the thumbnails. Animation Pro allows existing images to be added to the currently active layer. Press the button as shown to open the File Manager. The Animation Pro File Manager will be covered in a separate tutorial. For now, let's select an image from the User Images category. You'll notice that the Paste Options panel has now appeared. You can do a number of things to the content before it's actually added to the currently active layer. Using a single finger, you can move the content around. Using 2 fingers, you can scale the content. The 3 buttons at the top of the paste options allow you to stretch the image horizontally, stretch the image vertically, or scale the image uniformly. The opacity dial in the middle of the paste options panel can be used to make the content transparent. Beneath that, you'll find 2 buttons to rotate the content 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right. Alternatively, you can rotate the content using the dial at the top of the screen or by using 2 fingers. You can also use the 2 flip buttons on the paste options panel to flip the content horizontally or vertically. And once you're done, press the green tick button to add the content to the currently active layer, or alternatively press the red X button to abort the paste operation. In this case, we've pasted the content. Sometimes it can be useful to distort the contents of a layer. Start by pressing on the distortion button as shown. This will open the distortion options panel. Now if you've already made a distortion, it will be displayed as the last distortion on the distortion options panel. You can apply that distortion to the currently active layer by tapping on Use Last Distortion. Otherwise, the currently active layer may be distorted by dragging the blue handles. Tap on the Reset button to remove the distortion. When you're done, press the green tick button at the bottom of the distortion options panel to apply your changes, or use the red X button to abort. Now, there's a few other items that I should mention at this point. Firstly, when most of the tools are in use, you can use 2 fingers to resize the canvas view and move it around. This can make it much easier when it comes to making precise changes to your content. To reset the canvas view, press the Reset button at the top of the screen as shown. You can also choose to display a cursor whenever you're using a brush-based tool. By default, Animation Pro anti-aliases all brush strokes, lines, etc. added to a layer. This adds additional translucent pixels to the lines and strokes to smooth them out. Let's zoom in to take a look. Now if you're intending on joining a bunch of your images together to create a figure, these additional pixels can actually make the joins visible even if the images are the same color. In that case, it can be useful to use the switch at the top of the screen to turn anti-aliasing off before drawing the parts of the images that will eventually meet in your figure. Hopefully you're still awake at this point, because it's time to turn our image project into an actual image and then save it or share it. Press the Output button as shown at the top of the screen. This will open the Output menu. We have 4 choices here. 1. We can save an image. This will take all of the layers in the project and combine them to produce a single image. This option will preserve all of the blank pixels around the content. 2. We can trim and save an image. This option will automatically remove any blank pixels from around the content to potentially produce a smaller image. 3. We can share an image. This is the same as option 1, except that the file will not automatically be saved to Animation Pro's user images. Instead, the iOS sharing options will be displayed. You can thus use this option to make the image available to other iOS apps. 4. We can trim and save an image. This will automatically trim blank pixels from around your content and make the resulting image available to other iOS apps. Now most of these options are very similar in behaviour, so let's just take a look at trimming and saving an image. You can explore the others yourself. When outputting an image, Animation Pro gives you a final chance to resize or crop the image. Use the 2 dials at the bottom of the screen to resize the image. With the Maintain Aspect Ratio switch turned on, adjusting the width will automatically adjust the height and vice versa, to maintain the original aspect ratio of the image. If you'd like to adjust those parameters independently, turn the switch off. You'll notice that there are two clipboard buttons at the bottom of the screen. These can be used to save the width and height details to the Animation Pro clipboard so that they may be reapplied to future images. You may, for example, wish to create a whole bunch of different hands for your figure. If they're all made exactly the same size, item substitutions will be much easier when animating. To crop an image, press the crop button at the top of the screen. The black rectangle represents the part of the image that will be retained. Use one finger to move the rectangle around. Use the blue handles or the dials at the bottom of the screen to change the shape and the size of the selection. Again, clipboard buttons will appear at the bottom of the screen to save and reapply the crop settings. When you're done, press the OK button at the top of the screen to apply the crop, or alternatively, press Cancel to exit cropping mode without making any changes. At any time, if you've made a mistake, you can always press the Reset button to put the image back to its original or default size and remove any crops. Finally, press the green tick button at the bottom right corner to apply the changes and finish. Now we just saved the image, so it should be available in the File Manager. I hope you found that as informative as I did. Thanks for watching.